Ambassador Rahim walked into the great crystal hall of Zira. He felt a soft breeze and heard gentle music echo between the walls. The walls were smooth and clear like ice. He carried a slim folder with his speech notes. He saw warm lights flicker in the crystals overhead. His heart beat fast. Humans came here to seek peace, and he was the first human ambassador on this world. He straightened his suit, took a deep breath, and tried to stand tall and calm. At the center of the hall, many Zirians had gathered. They wore long robes in soft colors, each robe trimmed with small gems at the sleeves. The gems caught the light and shone when the air moved. Zirian voices rose in a calm harmony, making Rahim feel both strange and excited. He stepped forward as Lord Malin, his host, guided him by the elbow. Malin spoke in a low voice, "This way to Her Highness." Rahim bowed his head politely. When he turned the corner, he saw Princess Aria standing on a raised dais above the crowd. Her dress was pale blue, flowing and smooth. Her long black hair fell in soft waves. Her eyes were calm and bright. She looked at Rahim with quiet interest. No guards stood near her, only a single silent sentinel at the hall's edge. Rahim felt warmth in his chest. He drew a slow breath and bowed deeply before her. Soft music began as the welcome feast opened. Tables rose from the floor like living plants, their branches holding dishes of light fruits and warm pastries. Zirians ate with slim forks made of crystal. Rahim joined Aria at a table near the front. He sat across from her. The guard stepped back and left them in peace. Rahim's palms grew warm as he studied Aria's face, still, calm, and strangely comforting. He wanted to say something kind but found it hard to begin. He cleared his throat and met her pale eyes. He felt a sudden rush of courage. In his soft human voice, he said, "Your Highness, I have never met someone so calm and kind. I wish I could marry someone like you." His words hung in the air. Aria's eyes grew wide, and she lifted a slender hand to her lips. The music and chatter seemed to pause for a single heartbeat. Rahim felt his face grow hot as he waited for her response. A gentle murmur spread through the guests. Some nobles glanced at each other with surprise. Rahim felt his chest tighten as he stared at Aria. She remained still for a moment, then spoke in a soft, clear tone. "Ambassador Rahim, your words are bold." She paused, and the light in her eyes seemed to shift like water. Rahim's hope and fear mixed inside him as the hall held its breath, waiting to see what she would say next. The next morning, Ambassador Rahim awoke to a soft light in his quarters. He dressed quickly and left the guest wing. Palace servants led him through wide corridors lined with tall silver pillars. At the end of the hall, he paused before a door framed by living vines and carved flowers. A silver tablet lay on a stand beside it. He pressed his palm, and the door slid open without a sound. Inside, Princess Aria waited in the palace gardens. The air smelled of jasmine and sweet grass. Bright petals drifted on a gentle breeze. Aria stood near a stone bench under a blooming aurora tree, its pale pink blossoms glowing in the morning light. She wore a simple white gown that brushed the stone path. When she saw Rahim, her lips curved in a quiet smile. Rahim bowed, then joined her at the bench. Aria spoke first. "Ambassador, will you share more of your world with me?" Her voice was soft, like wind through reeds. Rahim felt warmth spread through his chest. He reached into his satchel and pulled out a thin holo tablet. He tapped it twice. A series of glowing images appeared. A small human family laughing at dinner, a father teaching his daughter to ride a bicycle, children playing hide and seek under green trees. Rahim described each scene in simple words. He said, "On Earth, love comes in many forms. Families live and grow together. We celebrate small moments." Aria leaned forward, her dark hair falling over her shoulder. She watched every image with bright eyes. When he showed a picture of a wedding, two humans holding hands under a flower arch, Aria's breath caught. She turned her head away for a moment, as if shy. Then she met his gaze again, curious and warm. Rahim closed the tablet gently. He asked, "Would you like to hear a story?" Arya nodded. He began a short tale of two young humans who met on a rainy day and helped each other find shelter. He spoke in calm, clear sentences, using words she could follow. Arya listened without blinking. When the story ended, she reached out and touched the edge of the tablet. "Your stories make me feel something new," she said. "I wish to know more." They walked together among carved stone fountains and rose bushes. Rahim told her about human festivals, where friends and strangers danced around fires. Arya smiled and tried to imagine dancing in simple clothes under the moon. She asked if humans ever felt lonely under foreign stars. Rahim admitted they did, but they relied on each other for hope. Arya paused by a silver pond, watching koi fish glide beneath the water. "Hope," she whispered, "is a strong bond." By noon, Arya guided Rahim back to the garden's entrance. She stopped under an arched trellis of white orchids. "Ambassador Rahim," she said, her voice steady, "thank you for showing me your world." Rahim bowed his head. Arya lifted her hand to his arm and squeezed gently. In that simple touch, both felt a promise that their bond might grow deeper than any treaty. As Rahim stepped away, he looked back to see Arya smiling softly, her heart as open as the sky above the palace gardens. The following day, Princess Arya invited Ambassador Rahim to tour the royal laboratories. Tall glass walls held rows of humming machines. Bright panels showed shifting lights and moving symbols. Scientists in silver coats guided them through each room. Rahim watched with wide eyes. He had never seen technology like this. Arya walked beside him and spoke softly. "This lab studies energy from our sun," she said. She tapped a console, and a small hovering orb of light spun above their heads. Rahim reached out but did not touch. Arya smiled. "It is safe," she said. Rahim nodded and studied the orb as it drifted back to its stand. They moved on to a row of large tubes. Inside each tube, glowing crystals floated in blue liquid. A scientist explained, "These crystals store power." Rahim asked, "Do humans have this?" The scientist shook his head. Arya turned to Rahim. "Your world uses fire and wind for power," she said. Rahim described wind turbines and solar panels in simple words. Arya listened, tilting her head in wonder. Next, they entered a tall chamber filled with wires and metal arms. Arya pressed a button. A large platform rose from the floor. She invited Rahim to step on it. He did. The platform held them both as it moved upward. High above the lab floor, Rahim felt a sudden thrill. He looked at Arya's face and saw calm joy. Below them, machines glowed in neat rows. Suddenly, lights flickered and alarms sounded. A sharp crack echoed through the chamber. Rahim grabbed Arya's arm. "Something is wrong," he whispered. A heavy metal arm clanged loose and fell toward the platform. Arya cried out as the arm crashed down and pinned her leg against the railing. Sparks flew from broken wires. Rahim's heart pounded. He moved quickly. He knelt and pushed against the arm with all his strength. The metal groaned but would not budge. He looked around. A red panel blinked. He ran to it and pulled the lever. The arm lifted just enough to free Arya's leg. Rahim slid under and pulled her away. Arya stood, wincing but unhurt. Rahim supported her by the shoulder. Scientists rushed in and secured the arm. One offered a medic bag, but Arya shook her head. She looked at Rahim with bright eyes. "You saved my life," she said. Rahim felt his face grow warm. He brushed back a lock of her hair. "I would do anything to keep you safe," he said softly. Arya paused, then smiled gently. "You have great courage, Ambassador," she replied. "You see me as someone worth risking your life for." The scientists cleared the area and began repairs. Arya guided Rahim out of the laboratory. As they left, she touched his arm. "Thank you," she said again. Rahim smiled and bowed his head. Outside, the palace courtyard felt calm under the sun. Arya turned to Rahim. "Your strength is more than physical," she said. "You have bravery and a kind heart." Rahim met her gaze. He felt a deep respect for the princess grow inside him. As they walked back to the main hall, Rahim thought of his homeland. He wished his people could see this moment. He took a steady breath and walked on, side by side with the alien princess he had now saved, and who began to see him as more than just a guest. The next morning, Princess Arya invited Ambassador Rahim to the Grand Syrian Archive. They walked beneath a high domed ceiling painted with silver stars. Tall shelves rose like living towers, each shelf heavy with ancient scrolls and glowing tablets. Soft light fell through crystal windows, making dust motes dance in the air. Rahim felt both excitement and respect. He knew this place held Zura's oldest secrets. Arya led him down a spiral walkway carved from pale stone. She paused before a shelf marked with a bronze eagle. "This section holds our founding legends," she said. Rahim watched as she pulled a heavy book from the shelf. Its cover was smooth and cool, etched with two figures, one human, one Syrian, standing beneath a great tree. He traced the lines lightly. "What story is this?" he asked. Arya opened the book to a page of glowing script. The words shone in soft white light. "This tells of Princess Zaire and her human guide, Kale," she explained. "Long ago, they met in secret. Their people were at war, but their friendship brought peace." Rahim bent close. He saw pictures of the two figures sharing food, helping each other through storms, and planting a single seed beneath the stars. He held up a holo tablet and showed its panel across the page. He tapped a few symbols, and simple translations appeared beside the ancient glyphs. "They found courage in each other," he read aloud. Arya smiled, her eyes reflecting the text. "Yes," she said softly. "They proved that two worlds can unite." Rahim felt a warm glow in his heart. He thought of Arya and himself, walking this same path. They turned a page to find a map of hidden caves beneath Zura's mountains. The map showed a secret chamber where Zir and Kale carved their promise into stone. Arya's breath caught. "Few have seen this place," she whispered. "It is sacred." Rahim's fingers brushed her hand for a moment. She did not pull away. Together, they studied the map, imagining torchlight dancing on cave walls. After a while, Arya closed the book and stood. She led Rahim to a low table where small cups waited. The air smelled of jasmine tea. They sat and poured the warm brew. Rahim handed Arya a cup first, bowing his head. She accepted it with a quiet smile. They sipped in silence, tasting both the tea and the weight of the legend. Finally, Arya spoke. "This story gives me hope," she said. "It shows that love and trust can change history." Rahim met her gaze. "Your history is full of brave souls," he replied. "I feel honored to learn it." Arya's face softened. She touched the edge of his cup. "Thank you, Rahim," she said. "You helped me see our past in a new light." They left the archive hand in hand, each step lighter than before. Rahim looked at Arya and thought how their own story might grow. Arya glanced at him and wondered if she, too, could follow the path of Zaire and Kale. As sunlight filled the hallway, they walked on, two hearts united by an ancient tale and a promise of what might come next. Princess Arya rose before dawn in her private chambers. Today she would face the royal council. The council met in a wide hall of polished marble. High pillars curved overhead. Banners of silver and blue hung between them. Arya smoothed her gown and took a slow breath. She entered the hall with steady steps. Around a long table, 20 nobles in dark robes sat with stern faces. Their voices fell silent as she passed. At the head of the table stood General Koren. His armor gleamed under crystal lights. He bowed once to Arya, and then looked straight at the nobles. Lord Vex spoke first. "Your Highness, our borders are weak," he said. We need a stronger alliance. He gestured at General Corin. The general's house offers armies and riches. He demands your hand in marriage. He tapped the table for emphasis. The nobles nodded and whispered agreement. Aria's heart tightened. She felt her palms grow warm. She glanced at Corin. He held her gaze with calm eyes. Rahim stood beside her, dressed in a simple tunic. He looked out of place among the nobles. Yet his posture was firm, his face kind. Lord Vex turned to Rahim. Ambassador, he said, your people have no strength to offer. Why should our princess wed a stranger? His tone was sharp. The nobles murmured again. Rahim swallowed. He raised his voice, clear and steady. Your Highness, he said, our bond is new. But I believe trust can grow into something stronger than any army. A hush fell. Rahim looked at Aria. She nodded slightly. He stood tall. On earth, he said, we choose partners by respect and care. We do not force hearts. There was no anger in his voice, only calm truth. Some nobles frowned, but some leaned forward, listening. General Corin stepped close to the table. His voice was low but firm. Princess, he said, this marriage would secure peace and power. It is my duty to protect you and our world. He offered Aria his hand over the table. The metal of his gauntlet felt cold and heavy to imagine. Aria closed her eyes for a moment. She felt the weight of her crown and the hope in Rahim's eyes. She thought of peace built by courage, not by threats. She thought of Rahim's kindness in the gardens and his care in the labs. She opened her eyes and drew a steady breath. Enough, she said, her voice clear like a bell. The hall fell silent. Aria lifted her chin. My duty is to my people, she began, but my heart must also speak. She looked at Corin, then at Rahim. I will consider both paths, she said, but I will not be forced. With that, she turned and left the hall. The nobles whispered in surprise. Rahim bowed his head with respect. He walked after her, hoping he had given her strength. In the empty hallway, Aria paused. She touched the carved stone wall and closed her eyes, listening to her own heartbeat. Her choice lay ahead, and her courage would guide her. The dawn sky was soft pink when Princess Aria led Ambassador Rahim to the sacred arena. The arena lay in a circle of white stone, divided into 4 sections for fire, water, wind, and earth. A quiet crowd of Zyrians gathered around the rim. Rahim stood tall, though his heart beat fast. He had agreed to face the test of elements to prove his worth, and to show his respect for Zyrian customs. First, the trial of fire began. Rahim stepped onto a line of heated stepping stones. Flames licked at the edges, but the stone stayed solid under his boots. He felt the heat climb his legs. For a moment, doubt touched his mind. Then he remembered Aria's calm smile. He took a steady breath, lifted his foot, and walked across. He moved slowly, 1 stone at a time, keeping his focus on the next safe spot. When he reached the end, the flames died down. The crowd murmured in surprise, and then in respect. Next came the trial of water. The stone floor opened to reveal a deep pool with a metal ring at its bottom. A guard dropped a key into the water. Rahim stood at the edge and watched ripples spread. He removed his cloak and dove in. The cold shocked him, but he kicked hard and swam down. He held his breath and reached the ring. He unlocked it with careful fingers and sent the key floating to the surface. He rose slowly, water streaming from his hair, and placed the key on a pedestal. The water drained away, and the crowd clapped quietly. The trial of wind was third. A narrow beam stood above the ground, and great fans blew steady gusts across it. Rahim climbed onto the beam and felt the wind push against him. He spread his arms like wings, bent his knees, and lowered his center of gravity. He took short steps, feeling each gust pass. When he reached the other side, he dropped lightly to the ground. A soft cheer rose from the Zyrians, and Aria's eyes shone with pride. Finally, The trial of Earth awaited. A heavy stone block sat in the center of the arena. Ancient runes glowed softly on its sides. Rahim placed his hands on the cool surface. It felt too heavy to move. He closed his eyes, focused on his breathing, and drew on the strength of his legs and back. Then he pushed. The stone slid, inch by inch, until it reached the marked circle. The runes flashed bright white, and the block lifted slightly before settling back down. The crowd erupted in applause. Arya stepped forward and handed Rahim a cloth to wipe his face. He bowed his head and met her eyes. "You have proven your courage," she said, her voice calm and warm. "And your heart is true." Rahim smiled, feeling both relief and pride. In that moment, he knew their bond had grown deeper. The trial of elements was complete, and he had shown the princess and her people that a human could stand with Zurians in both strength and spirit. That evening, the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Princess Arya led Ambassador Rahim to the palace's moon terrace. Tall arches of pale stone opened to a view of distant towers and glowing lanterns. A single lantern hung above a marble bench at the terrace's center. Arya motioned for Rahim to sit. He did, brushing dust from his tunic. They sat in soft silence, listening to the evening wind. Stars began to appear, one by one, like scattered gems. Arya gazed upward, then turned to Rahim. "You showed great courage today," she said quietly. Her words felt gentle in the night air. Rahim nodded, his heart warm. "I wanted to honor your people," he replied, "and to prove my feelings are real." Arya's eyes shone with a soft light. She brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. "On Earth," she said, "some say humans love risk, but I see you value care and respect." Rahim smiled. "We learn strength from each other," he said. "Your world taught me more than any trial could." A small breeze stirred a nearby curtain of white flowers. Petals drifted down, landing on the marble floor. Arya stood and reached out to catch one. She held it between her fingers and studied its delicate shape. Rahim stood too, moving closer. He watched her in silence, noting the gentle curve of her hand and the thoughtful look in her eyes. Arya looked at the petal, then at Rahim. "I feel my heart opening," she admitted. "I did not expect this bond." Rahim's chest tightened with hope. He took a careful step forward. "My heart feels the same," he said. "I have never felt so at peace." Arya placed the petal in Rahim's hand. She kept her palm close to his. The warmth from her skin spread to him. "This is a promise," she whispered. "A promise that we will trust each other." Rahim closed his fingers around the petal and her hand. They walked together to the balcony's edge and looked out over the palace gardens. Below, lanterns lit winding paths, and shadows danced among the trees. A soft melody drifted up from a distant string ensemble. Rahim recognized the tune. It was a human lullaby about hope and home. He turned to Arya. "Your people are wise," he said. "You blend strength with kindness." Arya smiled. "And you bring your own gifts. Friendship, respect, and love." She moved closer, so their shoulders touched. They stood together, side by side, as the stars shone high above. For a moment, they said nothing. Their hearts spoke in quiet rhythms, promising more than words could hold. At last, Arya rested her head on Rahim's shoulder. He wrapped his arm around her. In the calm of the moonlit terrace, two worlds met, bound by courage, trust, and a growing love that neither had fully expected, but both now cherished. The following morning, word of Rahim's trial of elements had spread through the palace. Servants and guards offered respectful nods as he passed. Rahim dressed in a simple robe and met Arya at the courtyard fountain. Dews sparkled on the carved stone. Arya held a scroll tied with a silver ribbon. She handed it to Rahim. "This is an invitation," she said. "A banquet in your honor, tonight." Rahim accepted the scroll and smiled. "Thank you, Your Highness." He watched as she turned away, her robes whispering across the courtyard. All day, Rahim walked through the palace. He spoke with artisans who crafted jeweled mosaics and builders who shaped towering spires. Each person bowed and said, "Thank you for standing with us." Rahim felt pride for the respect he had earned, but he thought most of Arya, her quiet strength and kind heart. As dusk fell, the palace halls glowed with lanterns. The banquet hall's doors opened, revealing tables draped in white linen. Crystal goblets shone beside plates of sweet fruits and soft breads. Arya entered last, wearing a gown of pale emerald that matched the morning gardens. Her hair was braided over one shoulder. Rahim rose and bowed deeply. Guests of honor included nobles, generals, and scientists. General Corrin stood at the far end, his face calm but unreadable. He nodded once to Rahim before turning to the assembled guests. Lord Vex cleared his throat and began, "Tonight, we honor Ambassador Rahim. He has shown courage and respect for our ways." He raised a goblet. The guests followed. Rahim stepped forward. He looked at Arya and then at the crowd. "Thank you," he said in his calm voice. "I came here as a stranger to seek peace. Your kindness has shown me friendship. I am honored to be among you." Guests nodded, and soft applause filled the hall. As the feast began, Arya sat beside Rahim. They shared small dishes of spiced fruits and honey cakes. Between bites, Rahim asked about Zyrian traditions. Arya explained the meaning behind each dish, how the fruits represented joy, how the honey symbolized unity. Rahim listened with bright eyes and thanked her for each story. Midway through the banquet, a troupe of dancers entered, their silken costumes brushing the floor. They moved in slow, graceful patterns that told tales of ancient heroes. Arya watched with Rahim, her fingers brushing his arm. He felt warmth spread through him. When the dancers finished, General Corrin stood. He lifted his goblet and spoke, "Ambassador Rahim has earned a place among us." He turned to Arya. "Your choice will shape our future." The hall grew still. Arya stood and placed her hand on Rahim's shoulder. "I choose peace built on trust," she declared. "And I choose Ambassador Rahim as my ally and friend." She paused, then added softly, "He is more than an ambassador to me." Gasps rose, and then cheers as the crowd celebrated her decision. Rahim felt his heart swell. He bowed to Arya, and then to the crowd. In that grand hall, under glowing lanterns and hopeful eyes, two worlds united in friendship and promise. The banquet became not just an honor for Rahim, but a turning point where humans and Zyrians chose a new path together. That night, after the banquet, the palace corridors were quiet. Ambassador Rahim walked beside Princess Arya toward the guest wing. Soft lantern light guided their steps. Arya held Rahim's hand, and he felt its gentle warmth. He glanced at her. "Thank you for tonight," he said. Arya smiled. "You earned every word," she replied. They paused by a carved doorway. Arya turned to him. "Tomorrow, the council will meet again," she said. "Some will still doubt us." Rahim squeezed her hand. "I will stand by you," he promised. The next morning, Arya entered the council hall alone. Rahim watched from the gallery above. Lord Vex and other nobles sat waiting. General Corrin stood at the head, arms crossed. When Arya arrived, she took her place. Silence fell. Lord Vex spoke first. "Your Highness, last night's declaration surprised us," he said. "Some fear this alliance is too risky." He looked at the council. "We must ensure our people's safety." Arya nodded. "I understand your concerns," she replied in a firm voice. "But trust must begin with courage. Ambassador Rahim has shown both." She turned to Corrin. "General, will you support this union?" Corrin stepped forward. He bowed to Arya, then faced the council. "Your Highness," he said, "I respect your choice. Rahim proved his strength and honor. I will serve under this alliance." The nobles murmured among themselves. Lord Vex hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Very well," he said. But we require a ceremony of unity, a ritual to bind our peoples. Aria's eyes lit up. I know of an ancient rite, she said. It takes place at the Crystal Falls at dawn. Council members exchanged looks. Finally, they agreed. The meeting ended, and Aria returned to Rahim in the gallery. Rahim descended the stairs and greeted her. A ceremony at Crystal Falls, he repeated. It sounds beautiful. Aria nodded. It will show our worlds united by nature itself. That evening, Aria and Rahim prepared for the journey. Servants packed simple supplies, bread, cheese, and fresh fruit. Aria chose a pale gown that matched the morning sky. Rahim dressed in light armor gifted by the palace craftsman. When they met in the courtyard, the air was cool and quiet. As they left, palace guards formed an honor escort. Torches lit the path through gardens and up a gentle hill. Stars shone overhead. Rahim looked at Aria's profile in the torchlight. Her expression was calm and determined. He felt pride and affection. They reached the hill's crest before dawn. Below, Crystal Falls glimmered in moonlight. Water tumbled over smooth stones into a clear pool. Mist rose like silver smoke. Aria led Rahim down a stone path to a flat rock beside the water. She placed her hand on his chest. Here, our hearts will speak, she said softly. Rahim nodded. He held her hand. Together, they watched the first light of dawn touch the falls. As sunlight caught each drop, rainbows danced in the mist. Aria closed her eyes and breathed deeply. Rahim mirrored her. In that moment of quiet beauty, two worlds stood together, ready to bind their futures in hope, trust, and a love that had grown stronger with every shared step. The pale light of dawn touched the stones at Crystal Falls. Ambassador Rahim and Princess Aria stood on the flat rock beside the rushing water. Mist curled around their feet, and the air smelled of fresh earth and wet stone. Aria stepped forward and held out a small glass vial filled with water from the falls. Inside, a single silver leaf floated. Rahim took the vial with both hands. He looked at Aria, whose dark hair glowed faintly in the morning light. This water and leaf come from the heart of Zira, she said softly. They bind two souls in truth. Rahim nodded, his heart steady. He held the vial close and spoke true words. I pledge my life to your world and your people. I promise respect, honor, and friendship. He poured half the water onto the rock between them. The liquid pooled and shimmered. Aria watched the water. Then she took the vial back and spoke her vow in a clear, light voice. I pledge my life to your world and your people. I promise trust, courage, and care. She emptied the rest of the water onto the same spot. The silver leaf floated between them and settled on the stone. A soft hum rose from the falls. The mist turned pale gold, and the leaf glowed for a moment before sinking into the water. Rahim and Aria looked at each other, their hands still touching around the vial. They felt a bond stronger than any treaty. Aria reached into a small satchel at her side and pulled out two simple rings, made of woven silver vines from Zira's forests. She held one to Rahim's finger. He slipped it on with a smile. Then he placed the other on her finger. The metal felt cool and alive. Above them, the sun broke free of the horizon. Light sparkled on the falling water, and a gentle breeze carried the sound of the falls like a soft song. Aria and Rahim stood side by side, each wearing a ring and sharing a promise that no war could break. Rahim spoke again. Our worlds are joined now, in peace and in heart. Aria nodded, her eyes bright. Together, we will face whatever comes. They turned and walked back up the stone path, hand in hand. Palace guards and aides waited at the hilltop, torches still warm in their grips. Behind them, Crystal Falls roared on, unchanged yet forever different, marked by the promise of two hearts united. Back in the palace, the royal council greeted them with quiet respect. Aria held Rahim's arm as they entered the hall. The bells of unity rang through the chambers, and Zirians and humans alike came forward to offer congratulations. That evening, under lantern light and amid soft music, Rahim and Arya stood before both peoples. Arya spoke first. "Today, we showed that love and trust can bridge any gap." Rahim added, "And we will build a future together, where humans and Syrians stand as one." The crowd cheered, and the sound echoed through the halls. As lanterns swayed overhead, Rahim and Arya shared a quiet smile. Their journey had begun with a bold wish and an unbelievable response, and now it led to this new world of hope, unity, and the promise of a shared life under the same stars.